Star Wars 7x7 episode 2263. Well, fall TV preview time has arrived, and The Mandalorian scored the cover of Entertainment Weekly's annual issue, so we'll talk about that and things that were revealed in the article. A lot was kept hidden, though, so don't you worry. In today's episode, punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. Oh, why this just tickles me or continues to do so, I don't know, but Entertainment Weekly is still called Entertainment Weekly even though it is a monthly magazine, and you can't say, oh, well, maybe it's because of the website, because it's updating daily. So if you're thinking of the website, it's entertainment multiple times daily. And if you're thinking of the magazine, it should be monthly. But no, it's Entertainment Weekly. And they do a fall TV preview every year. And my oh my, I have to say, I utterly forgot that they did that. And they do it. So that's great. They also do movie previews as well. And, you know, maybe it's just a function of the times and how everything's sort of been thrown off with the coronavirus and, you know, all that stuff. But be that as it may, the fall TV preview came out, and The Mandalorian is on the cover because that seems to be what everyone's excited about for fall TV. And the funny thing of it is that I guess season 1 might have been, you know, one of the most hotly anticipated series, but also probably had comparatively low expectations maybe because it was a brand new experiment, and so, you know, high hopes, but we're, you know, not necessarily going to assume that it would be tremendous out of the gate. And for the most part, it was tremendous out of the gate. And so now they're dealing with high anticipation and high expectation. So let's talk about some of the new bits of information. First of all, there is a recap of the actors who have been rumored to be cast for the show. Just as a reminder, nobody has been officially announced by Lucasfilm, but Timothy Olyphant and Michael Biehn and Rosario Dawson and Katie Sackhoff and Temuera Morrison, all 5 of them have been rumored to be in the cast. Gina Carano says some of those are true and some aren't. Of course, there's no indication of which is which, so there's that, and you can run with it as you like. But the implication of having any of those actors, well, particularly Rosario Dawson, rumored to play Ahsoka Tano, Katie Sackhoff, rumored to play Bo-Katan, who she voiced in the Rebels and Clone Wars series, and Temuera Morrison, of course, who played Jango Fett and all of the clones in the prequels. So those characters suggest bringing in sort of other storylines, and that kind of ties in to one of the comments that's made by Jon Favreau as part of the article. He says, the new story is about introducing a larger story in the world. The stories become less isolated, yet each episode has its own flavor, and hopefully we're bringing a lot more scope to the show. And Dave Filoni adds into that by saying everything gets bigger, the stakes get higher, but also the personal story between the child and the Mandalorian develops in a way that he thinks people will enjoy. And speaking of storylines, that kind of splits us off in 2 different ways. In addition to that whole storytelling thing, just to build on that further, Jon Favreau says, as we introduce other characters, there are opportunities to follow different storylines. The world was really captivated by Game of Thrones and how that evolved as the characters followed different storylines. And that's very appealing to me, Jon Favreau, as an audience member. So that may give you an indication of the way they're thinking. And as for the relationship between the Mandalorian and the child, one of the pieces of the article includes interviews with Pedro Pascal, who is the Mandalorian, and the article says that the bounty hunter is going to face a series of obstacles that will increasingly challenge his paternal loyalty to his ward. And this is the direct quote from Pascal. He says, we start very directly after the first season, and he's going into very dangerous territory, the Mandalorian is. He's very much a passenger to the experience in unexpected ways, not knowing what's to come, not knowing how much or how best to protect the child. We don't know how far he will go to do that, and they're finding new ways to push the envelope, unquote. I dare say, though, I think that some of the most intriguing stuff has come from Giancarlo Esposito, who plays Moff Gideon in the series, and in this article, in this cover story, as well as in stories that we actually haven't talked about where he's done interviews over the course of the last several months, there's a lot that he says that's really kind of fascinating. And I think we're going to take a separate episode just to dive into what Giancarlo Esposito has been saying about things. But in the meantime, there are a couple of other details that are fun to check in about with this article, and I will do that in just a second. Do want to say thank you to our friends at Audible and remind you that you can get a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial by going to sw7x7.com/audible. The Mandalorian novel, unfortunately, has been delayed until next year, but there's a lot of other Star Wars novels and short story collections that you can get a hold of, and a lot of non-Star Wars stories for that matter as well. So free 30-day trial, free download available at sw7x7.com/audible, and thank you for supporting the show. So those couple other details. First of all, the initial episode is going to be directed by Jon Favreau. He did not actually direct any of the episodes in season 1, but he is going to the director's chair for season 2, and it'll be for the debut episode of the season on October 30th. They've also confirmed that it will be 8 episodes for the season, and according to Jon Favreau, there may actually be a bit more variety in the lengths of the episodes, but he doesn't really say whether some will be shorter than the ones we were used to from season 1, or whether some will be longer, or if, they're all going to be longer, but some will be longer than others, or, how that's going to work. So we don't know that just yet. But there is an interesting note from James Hibbard, who wrote the article for Entertainment Weekly, where he says the larger scope that they have for this season, which, by the way, they finished filming apparently 4 days before the coronavirus shut down. So man, oh man, timing was really lucky for them. But the larger scope, he says, James Hibbard says that it was aided by having fewer startup costs for the second round, for the second season of the show, which means that a greater percentage of the show's big budget will wind up on the screen. It already looked pretty fantastic to begin with, so that's impressive. And he does remind us that even though we don't know the exact number, it was estimated to be at $100 million for the first season. So yeah, I guess the fact that they've got a lot of the pieces in place already means that maybe they can do some more fun things, and that may also end up going to other actors that they're bringing on with this whole enterprise as well. So yeah, there you go. That is most of what we know from The Mandalorian, thanks to the fall TV preview article cover story in Entertainment Weekly, and we'll talk a bit more about that, particularly with Giancarlo Esposito's contributions tomorrow. But for now, that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always, and may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2020 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.